Hi everyone. This video is designed to walk you through the manuscript structure and content as outlined in the APA Publication Manual Guidelines. So this is what you will be using when you put together your paper. You're going to use these guidelines in how to structure the paper as well as what information should be included. So I'm just going to walk you through each component of the paper. As I've said before, for 600, you are only going to be doing the abstract, the title page, the abstract, and the introduction. Once you get to 610, you will also do, in addition to those components, you're also going to be doing the results section and the discussion. So let's start with there we go. Okay. The title page. So on your title page, first, the title of the paper, it should be simple, and it needs to accurately summarize the main ideas of your manuscript. So what that means is that when I read the paper, as you see, it says that it should be simple, it should have style, and that it should stand alone. So when I read the title of your paper, I should know exactly what it is that you're going to be talking about in that paper, what you're going to be studying, what you're going to be looking at. It should be simple in that it just clearly outlines what you're doing. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be clever or catchy. You can use style. You can make it kind of fun if it works and is still simple and stands alone. But that shouldn't necessarily be a priority for you. So the most important thing is that when I read the title of your paper, I know what your study's about. If the title meets that criteria, then it's a good title. Okay. Next, also on the title page, you will see the author's name and institutional affiliation. So your name typically is your first name, your middle initial, and your last name. You will see variations on that, just depending on how people choose to publish, but for the most part, it would be, so for me, Alexandra M. Hiltpanahan. Your affiliation, which is your university or where you work, where you conducted the research. So in this case, because the paper is for your class at MSU, it would be MSU Mankato. I don't want you to put your school where you work on there because that would be identifying information about your student. So let's avoid doing that. You do not need to and should not include any reference to the fact that this is a paper for SPED 610 or 600. When you're going to do it in APA formatting, so you just have your name and your affiliation included on that title page. The next section in the APA guidelines is the author's note, which is included in publications if you're thanking someone or if there's information that you need the reader to know about, you would include an author's note. It's not needed for the paper, but since I'm following along with the APA guidelines as in the manual, I just wanted to include that so we weren't skipping over anything. And if you want more information about that, you can see chapter 2.03 for that information. 2.04 is the abstract. The abstract is a brief, comprehensive summary of the entire paper. So you're going to give information about your research question, your participants, your setting, your results, and a little bit about what you're going to discuss at the end of the paper in a paragraph. So those summary summary paragraphs that you were writing at the beginning of the semester, those were really in preparation for writing this abstract. I'm getting you used to pulling out the relevant information and being very concise in how you describe the results and the information that's provided in a research paper. It's a very important paragraph. Some would argue that it is the most important paragraph that you're going to write in a research paper because it's the first thing that people read when they come to look at your paper and decide if it's something that they want to invest time in reading. I'm sure when you did your lit reviews, you read a lot of abstracts and probably didn't go on and read the rest of the paper because you knew that it wasn't what you were looking for, right? So that abstract is incredibly important, that you are accurately describing what you're doing so people know whether your paper is something that they would want to continue to read. The information in the abstract needs to be accurate. Obviously, you want to report true. You don't want to say, we had these great findings, but in fact you didn't. It needs to be non-evaluative, so you're not saying whether things were good or bad or whether, it's just the facts. That's it. Obviously, you need it to be coherent and readable. It should be something that someone outside of your discipline can understand what you're talking about to the greatest extent possible. And finally, it's concise. You do have a word limit of 150 to 200 words, I believe. So you need to say what you need to say in as concise a way as possible. Okay. Next is the introduction. And again, this is the part that you'll be writing for 600 as well as another one in 610. But you're introducing the problem. So what is the problem? What are you trying to understand? How can we intervene for students in a classroom? Why do we need to intervene for students in a classroom? So you're introducing what the problem is, exploring the importance of that problem. So why are we looking at this? Why does it matter? Why do we care? Describe the relevant scholarship. So that's that lit review. So here's what we know already about kids with a particular disability and what we know about how well CICO works for those students. And then finally, the last part of your introduction is to state the purpose of your paper, or the purpose of your study. So stating your hypothesis. What are you trying to learn? What are you trying to understand through this research study? The method section, this describes in detail how your study was conducted. So it goes through each component and explains in enough detail that someone could replicate what you did based on what the information that you're providing in the methods section. So the first part of the methods is participants and setting. So who was involved, who were your students, who were your participants, who were your teachers or your researchers. You want to provide enough detail, as I said, that someone who's reading your paper could replicate, but you don't want to provide any identifying information related to the student. So you're not going to say the specific name of the school, you're not going to use students' real names, you don't want to have any identifying information in there. You're also going to include the materials that you needed. So what did you need in order to be able to conduct this study? Again, for someone else to be able to replicate what you've done, you need to have that information included. So examples, like if you had to time kids and you needed a stopwatch, you would include that in there. Any curriculum materials you were using, if it's an academic intervention, rewards, and not just saying rewards, but you would list and name what those rewards might be. Then probably the biggest component of the methods section is the procedures section. And this is what, explaining what you did in your study. So it should be a step-by-step explanation of how you conducted each component of your study. So if you did any assessments or training with the students before you started the intervention, what baseline sessions look like and how you collected data, as well as what the intervention looked like and how you implemented it. The next piece is one that you don't have to worry about until we get to 610 and 694, but that would be the results section. And this is where you summarize the data that were collected and report any analyses that were done. So what did you find? What did you learn through this study? You describe the data in the case of the single subject research study, which is what you will be implementing in 610. You're going to discuss level, trend, and variability of those data, and then include any descriptive statistics that you have. We'll get into more detail about that in next semester. And then finally, the discussion. The discussion is where you kind of take all the information, you pull it all together, and you're going to give your reader kind of big picture outcomes. What did we learn overall based on this study? What did we learn? What does it mean? What limitations do you see related to your particular study? So, what things happened that may have impacted the study that you weren't planning on? If the intervention didn't work the way you had anticipated that it would, can you come up with possible explanations for why that might be? And then you also want to talk about what would be next steps. What research could you see being conducted in the future based on what you've already learned from the previous research as well as from your current study? And that is a brief summary of the components of the research paper. I hope this is helpful for you as you're thinking about putting your paper together and thinking about what needs to go into each section to help you as you write. So, all right, thank you.